let's go along with that line and ask you, what will be the political implications of a regime change in Egypt and its impact?
You know, Egypt is a central power in the Arab world, and I think the international strategy is going to be reformed accordingly. If there is a new regime in Egypt, this regime would be democratic, would be Arab and Islamic. This regime would be within the fold of the region. This regime will bring Egypt back to the track of politics of the region and the world. In this case, all the other forces, political forces, regional and international, have to rearrange their papers and their will. In this case, I think that Israel would be the only non-victorious party, and this is why I think they are going to struggle with Mubarak regime. So as to say, the Americans are maneuvering now, and they are trying to stave off something of the anger of the people that Mubarak had been the victim of Israel and the United States. And I think the inefficiency of the governments which had been appointed by Mubarak, in addition to the corruption and also the claim that they are representing the people everywhere. So now this is a certificate to everyone that the people are talking for themselves. They don't need anyone to talk in their own name. So if we have a new regime, I think everything will be changing in the whole region and the world. And you can see now the responses from the West.
Yes, let's look at the response from the West, i.e. the United States. Despite the largest anti-government demonstrations that Egypt has witnessed in years, the U.S., well, a key Egyptian ally, has said Egypt's government is stable. And now these are the words of the U.S. Secretary. Go ahead.
I think the United States is hopeful that it is stable, but she knows fortiori that the Egyptian government is not stable at all. And they are trying to find out where the United States is going to fit in the new regime. And I think the United States has to push some of the American-oriented elements so as to be in the new equation in the Egyptian politics.
Well, let's get Mohammed Ghanem in here.
Anyhow, we have to face this.
Let me get Mohammed Ghanem to get a response from him regarding what the U.S. has said. And this was Clinton who has said Egypt's government is stable. And these are the words of a Secretary of State, of course, Clinton, as I mentioned. I mean, is Washington trying to give a moral boost to Hosni Mubarak's regime? And I recall back in 1977, then U.S. President Jimmy Carter said that about the dictator, the Shah of Iran, which, of course, we know what happened there.
Well, what happened last night is beyond any other events in Egypt. The Egyptian government has become like a house of cards now. It's collapsed. It's already collapsed. The only thing is, if Mr. Mubarak is wise enough, which I don't think he's wise enough, he's a military mentality, he will stand and try to resist. The Egyptian people will get rid of him at the end if he like it or not. But if he peacefully go away, then the Egyptian people, the Egyptian government or the Egyptian country has to go through transmission period. This transmission period, the opposition have to form like a temporary coalition to run the country until they make sure to hold a free election, which Egyptian people have been denied for a long time. As Mr. Mubarak was frauding all these elections and produced this corrupted layer of loyalties around him, now is the time to organize that. If it's not organized, the result, nobody would like it, and nobody can expect it. But for us, as a Muslim, we believe as well that the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there, and He will help the Egyptian people as well as He helped the Tunisian people and the rest of the Muslim world, inshallah.
Okay, let me get a feedback on Gamal Wakim regarding the United States and its strategy in the region. If we look at what the United States has done, they have pretty much put the peace process, this is one example, at the center of its strategy for the region, and putting U.S.-Egyptian relations within the prism of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Are we looking at changes there? And is that an error that the United States has done in the process?
Well, of course, Egypt has been a cornerstone for American politics in the region for the past 4 decades. And stability in Egypt, I mean, a stable regime that is loyal to the United States has been the major task or the major concern of the United States foreign politics in the Middle East. Of course, when they tried to launch their new politics in the region after September 11, they tried to form this new Middle East, trying to capture the region, trying to substitute one enemy of the Arabs, which is Israel, by another, trying to create of Iran another enemy. I think that in case of a change of a regime in Egypt, it would be the biggest relief for Iran, and it would be the biggest relief for Syria, and it would be the biggest threat now to Israel.
Okay, our guest in Cairo, let's look at the U.S. Role in terms of its effect on the political landscape that this uprising in Egypt at this point may indicate. I mean, given the region's political landscape to have changed somewhat, has it scrambled U.S.'s foreign policy agenda?
Yes, the United States, in fact, is waiting to see how far Mubarak is holding and how far the streets are affecting the regime. If the regime is going to collapse, the United States is going to wash off its hands and try to jump over the waves and the tides. So this is why the United States is sure that Mubarak regime is not stable at all. But as well, the Mubarak regime is not uprooted as well. So in this transitional period, I think the United States is trying to arrange something. First of all, it has to be very closely watching, and it has to see exactly the constitution of the national movement and why the official political parties are alienated and they are outside the whole scene now. They are coming just to support it out of courtesy, but they didn't have any effect at all. And I heard that the people in the streets, or the youth mainly, are in fact not obeying any of the elder. Those people who are viewed by the youth as incapacitated by the regime itself. So I think the United States is watching very closely. Israel also is watching very closely because they are going to to lose the biggest ally in the region. And we have to remind the viewers of one of the Israeli ministers who characterized Mubarak. He described Mubarak as the treasure for Israel.
Right.
So,
Mohammed Ghanem, democratic and economic reform. Obviously, that is a clear message that is resonating on the streets for Arab regimes, especially the Western-backed ones. Will these regimes conform?
Well, we are, as I started in the beginning, as a part of the Muslim nation, we believe in democracy. We believe in the will of the people. The people have to have right representation and to conduct their own affair. America has no right at all to dictate what the system in Egypt. Egypt is belong to Egyptian, and they will produce the system which, according to their belief, democracy, and actually Americans should be pro-democracy and should promote democracy in Egypt. But because of their interest and because of some of this right-wing ideology, they try to influence and keep a dictatorship for their own interest. But here, the rise up for the people will never give an area to America or Israel or anybody else. They will get what they want. They want to get rid of Mr. Mubarak, to promote democracy, to have a free election, to have their right back for true representation. Then life would start the right way.
Okay, Gamal Wakim, in 30 seconds or less, has Egypt finally reached a tipping point?
Well, I think so. This point has been awaited for too long now. there was an erosion, a disastrous erosion of all elements of national security, Egyptian national security. I think the last straw that broke the camel's back was the Sudanese affair, the secession of Southern Sudan, which is a direct threat to Egyptian national security.
Okay,
and
let
I
me get
think
in
it's
Abdullah
time for them to
Al-Ashal,
react.
because we're running out of time. Same question to you.
I think that Mubarak still has a very thin thread of hope if he has the courage and he have the oversight. So he can make transitional government, he can respond to the people, and he can be an ex-president instead of also president.
Okay, and Mohammed Ghanem?
Yeah, the Egyptian people proved they have taken a step forward, cannot go backward, and the only thing to carry on is to get rid of Mubarak regime, and that's it.
Okay, thank you. On that note, we're going to end it. That was from the UK, a Muslim Brotherhood representative, Mohammed Ghanem, speaking to us from London. Professor of International Law, Abdullah Al-Ashal, gave his statements from Cairo. And Professor of Middle East Affairs, Gamal Wakim from Beirut, with his statements. We want to thank you, the viewer, for watching. Any questions, send us an email at newsroom@presstv.ir. From Mika Batavia and the entire team, it's goodbye for now.